Hello and welcome to Podsongs, where we interview inspirational people as inspiration for a new song. Today, my guest is the Swedish musician and illustrator Thomas Feiner, and his guest is Dave McKean. Oh, there we go.
I'm here. Hi.
You're here. How you doing?
Fine. Thank you.
Very, one artistic background, artistic setup. I wouldn't expect anything less.
I borrowed this from my wife. She does this regularly, so I stolen it. So it's like a thing you pull up, like a curtain, a pull up curtain.
Ooh.
Very very sassy.
I was thinking you always work in this dark space.
I do not. It looks quite. I can show you, but it's a lot more messy. It's like my studio. Oh, it's blurred out. Is that?
Oh,
There is a setting for that. I believe.
oh, don't worry, don't worry.
Um, I'm a bit new to this Zoom thing.
Sure.
But I know that someone showed me how to sort of blur the background to spare the eyes of a viewer. Though at this point, blur my background. So here we go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's, oh.
Yeah. So it's a lot more messy. It's
No, but this we get into your mind, into the eyes of the art, into the mind of the artist now, and yeah.
yeah. No, I think it's easier on the eye.
No, but I also feel better now that knowing you don't get everything right because you do so many things. You're an illustrator. You're kind of a Renaissance man yourself, no?
Yeah. Well, I have my fingers in lots of different jars. For sure. And it's
Yeah.
also a bit scattering, to be honest. It's
Mhm.
just like I feel that there's a lack of a clear path in my life
Mm.
sometimes. But tell me about yourself. What is the, how long have you been doing this?
Well, I'm the most uninteresting guy in the room today. I mean, you do all these different things. Dave's, as we'll come on to later, he does everything. So I'm just
Yeah.
I'm specializing in this one thing now. Just trying to
Oh,
get this right. Just this little. So yeah, I started as a lockdown project
uh-huh.
to interview interesting people and write songs about them because I'm a troubadour. I write songs about people I meet. So it was a kind of a logical extension to do pod songs,
Uh-huh.
and now I've thrown it open to these guest artists like yourself to come on, and it's taking it to a new level because before people used to, you come for the songs, yeah, that was the kind of the candy. But really now it's gone to a new level for me where we get to see the guests through a fan's eyes or through someone else's eyes. We get to see why to understand a subject like it today, illustration.
Mhm.
Well, probably a lot more than that, but yeah, if I have to put a label on it, illustration.
Yeah.
And then yeah, now I understand it. Like if I just interviewed Dave by myself, I wouldn't have the right interest. I wouldn't get the in-depth questions that you have. I wouldn't be as enthusiastic. I'm really
Mm.
just going to take it to the next level just because of your enthusiasm.
Yeah. I hope so. I hope I can contribute in some way.
Well, I'd be
I'm
very
just now.
disappointed. I'm putting the pressure on you now.
Yeah. So yeah, but you're based in Italy, is that
I
correct?
am. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So for how long have you been?
10 years now.
10 years?
Yeah.
How come? Like, formed a family there
Yeah.
or
Exactly. Populating the country.
love? Yeah, this
Yeah.
this is what sort of spreads Englishmen around the world.
Just Englishman.
Yeah, well, I've known a few. Um,
Mm.
yeah. No,
It's a
but
good.
Swedes,
Yeah.
Swedes. Yeah. Okay. Very
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so you've been doing this rather persistently, because the list of guests is expanding, and some of them, as I said, are quite, in my world,
Mm.
extraordinary, like Charles Eisenstein, Rupert Sheldrake. Uh, so that was cool. But I'm sure this must take up a lot of your time, and with the research and all, like before and after the event.
Oh yeah. Well, I've got a lot more efficient at it. I've got very streamlined.
Right.
You'd be surprised how, but initially it was quite a mind bending experience. But now I've got it down pat.
Mhm.
I got very systematic about it. So, I've already
Yeah.
done that. I've just been, before we come on, I've been writing the press release for this episode, which will go out in, I don't know, 6 months or something. So
Right.
I'm getting very systematic with it because you
Mhm.
have to be, otherwise you go under,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Indeed. Um, but you do music, and um, do you draw and make illustrations as well, or
No, no,
uh,
no.
have you had any chance to look into this AI thing, or
Actually, we just did another episode. I don't know if your episode will come out first, but it was with Ida, which is an a robotic artist, an AI artist.
uh-huh.
But she has a hand because I know Dave's been very interested in this AI project as well. He's had a book just come out, didn't he? Where he
Prompt?
prompts exactly. Yeah, thanks for
Yeah.
prompting me. Yeah. So he put in, as we'll come on to, I'm sure. Are you also interested in that then?
I actually last night I tried finding it because I know that it's out there, and but he only did like 300 copies.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Hardback.
was
Yeah.
I was sort of hoping that there was a sort of an online version available somewhere, and I did a search, and I came to something called scribed.com, which had a PDF version, or
Mm-hmm.
so I thought. So I became a member, but the only PDF that they offered was sort of like a promotional PDF for prompt. So I haven't been able to. Have you managed to get hold of it?
No, no. But what? So why are you interested? Of all the people to speak to, why Dave McKean?
Because this AI thing, it came just out of clear blue sky, and from an illustrator's point of view, something that's, there was a trickle initially. There was an app called Dream, what by Wombo, for the phone, and would sort of make images. Uh, and then a couple of months later, you have like a full blown AI tool that responds like with you can get photographic material back, and it sort of understands what it is that you write, what you type, and it provides imagery to that. And it's still a bit unpredictable, of course, and sometimes slightly incoherent, but it's mind blowingly um, powerful.
Mm.
But also it's very controversial from an illustrator's point of view. I'm like I'm a part-time illustrator and a musician. Um, so in a way, I'm in two minds about the whole thing.
Mm.
I'm uh, completely fascinated by the possibilities of this tool, um, but at the same time, I can see the potential implications for people who work in the industry now. Uh,
Yeah, out
I'm
of a
sure
job.
already a lot of positions have been wiped out. Like
Mm.
smaller artists who made, for instance, album covers or singles covers for streaming releases on Spotify, whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Because now it's just a matter of typing roughly what you want as a
Mhm,
musician, and you
mhm.
will get something that is
I
acceptable.
want to use it because I use it currently, like unsplash.com, these rights-free images.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
you know,
You don't even have to go to that. You can get something that is much more tailored to your wishes.
yeah. Um,
So with a bit of experimentation, you can get something that kind of works.
be nice if they did the song as well.
And this is the next level. I'm hearing already examples of how AI can be used to create music, and it seems to be a much more time consuming thing. But there is a software being developed that you can input like 10 or 15 seconds worth of a country song or a jazz tune, whatever,
Mhm.
and then have the AI breaking it down, analyzing the words of the song, analyzing the singer, the sound of the
Right.
singer and his expression and the instrumentation, and then complete the song. It will take the current software about 10 to 15 hours or something, and you get
Mm.
2 minutes worth of music, but it sort of made the rest. And that kind of points to the future, I think, what we can expect eventually. I mean,
Oh yeah, a matter of time. I firmly
it
believe
is a
that.
matter of time, probably, and also it's hard to tell what the limits are. I mean,
Mm.
maybe there's even a way eventually that you will be able to make films with
Mm.
AI
Wow.
tools. But the broader issue is, well, if it's so easy to create all these things, does that devalue the expression somehow? Does it become more? Will we become disinterested in like cultural products? You know, like there will be a flood of things being produced. There is a flood already, but imagine when each and everyone could output like a full length blockbuster movie. I don't know what this will do to us as a species, as human beings, and uh, cultural consumers, if you will. I have no idea.
We'll just
And this
drown in
is,
a we'll just drown in a deluge of shit.
yeah, I mean, everything. 90% of everything is shit.
Mm.
Always, that's the standard ratio. But I'm also curious to see if we have these tools, if we can somehow dream better. You know, that if someone has an idea, something like a film, but it's undoable at the present stage. But with these new tools, if things could come up that are brilliant, but would otherwise have not seen light of day. So this is interesting, but who can tell at this stage? I know that at least for illustrators, we're sort of the first front for this AI blood. And
Okay.
it's quite unexpected. I never thought that illustrations would be something that you could make a computer program understand. You know, like specifics of when you describe nuances in something that an AI engine would be able to understand that, because you know how they say, like an image is worth more than 1,000 words. I thought that you would need so many words in order to describe something to make the computer understand. But somehow they managed to train it, and it just does it somehow. So it's.
You're in shock, I can tell. All right, but
I
before we
am
get
in shock, and I know that David was in shock as well, and he's been thinking about this a lot. And I saw an interview with him on something, Walking the Line or something, another podcast, and he was not too happy about.
all right, but before we get into that, because we're gonna go down that road, we're gonna talk about all of that. Let's just talk about your beautiful music, because maybe that will survive the test of AI a lot longer. I've just been listening to I've had The Ship on repeat, and that's really a spellbinding tune. Congratulations on that. It's like The National meets the Bad Seeds. That's really beautiful spatial sounds, and yeah, and also your Ave Maria song is if you need any gigs in the south of Italy, you can tour through here. The church is here with that song.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
No, a beautiful sound. I mean, really, you've got a wonderful voice and beautiful arrangements, and yeah, so it's good you've got these couple of careers. Maybe that's the future. We all need a couple of careers just to
a couple
avoid
of
going
careers, yes. Or we can. I mean, I'm trying to get my head around how this AI thing can be used in a positive way, and to, sort of to propel my own expression. But I'm still in the trial and error phase.
All right.
Also,
what about
philosophical.
So Dave McKean then? So just for people that don't know about him, maybe he joins in 5 minutes. Maybe you could just give us a bit of an introduction about him. What's his high points? What's his Mona Lisa, for example? What's his best painting?
I couldn't pick anything in particular, but he has a very special expression, and he's been, the Sandman is now on Netflix as a TV series, and
Okay.
that the Sandman was originally a comic, a graphic novel series,
Okay.
uh, written by uh, written by
Neil Gaiman. Yeah.
Neil Gaiman, and Dave provided all the covers. And I was completely mesmerized by all these, that the expression of those images. He didn't do the actual inside of the comic, but just the covers.
Oh.
But he did produce also a number of graphic novels with his own work, and written sometimes with Neil Gaiman and other authors. For me, I was into graphic novels when I was
Mm.
younger. I still like, and he was sort of top of the list of
Mm.
all, because I was very, very picky about
Oh yeah.
how illustrations in the comics should look. And, and for me, Dave's work was always unsurpassed. So there was, there's something wild about it,
Yeah.
crazy.
It's very spacious. It's very
Yeah. And also
dreamlike.
dreamlike. And I couldn't quite figure out, I mean, even to this day, because they have been looking like this since the early 90s, late 80s. And somehow he managed to incorporate photos with something that is entirely painted. And
Mm.
I'm not entirely sure how he actually technically did that. But
Mm.
so maybe I will be able to ask, but because I don't think computers were, well,
He was an
possibly.
early adopter of Photoshop. No.
Yeah, yeah. Because I've been around with working with computer graphics since late 80s.
Mm.
So I've sort of followed, and been part of that evolution. So something that was extremely expensive systems that cost like millions of Swedish crowns back in the late 80s, early 90s. That could do roughly what Photoshop or Illustrator, Adobe Illustrator could do,
Mm.
can do today. But still, I'm not sure he used computers back in those days.
Isn't that amazing? In your lifetime,
Yeah.
you've come from pencils to
Mhm.
getting a computer to do it, and now the computer you're not needing to
Yes.
be there.
Yes. That is, because I was always interested in new tech. I worked traditionally with pencils and airbrush and so on initially,
Mm. Mm.
and I was completely fascinated by the that kind of, when computers entered the stage and you could use them to create images. I immediately uh, jumped on the opportunity. Um, so I'm also now trying to monitor the situation just out of um, a lust for exploration, to
Mm.
see
Mm.
how can
See how
these
far you can go. Yeah.
tools be used. Yeah,
See how long you can stay on the horse.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
I worry for the future generation because you and Dave, you're talking about using it like tools, but for kids that come along, if music is made by AI and if the best pictures are done by AI,
mm.
you might as well just play the games. No, you might as well just try and be a famous
Yeah,
gamer. Or-
that's the thing. I mean, will we all be turned into just mere consumers,
Mm.
or what extent will we still be producers
Yeah.
and dreamers and artists?
Yeah.
This, I mean, that's the main question, I think.
Yeah.
Uh,
I heard
and
Dave say in an interview that it's just the programmers are because why they want to do this is quite another question as well. Just
yeah,
because you can, I
yes,
mean, but they're taking away the most enjoyable parts of human existence, though. The
the
making
making.
nice, yeah,
Yeah,
is fun. I mean, can they not just do the vacuum cleaning and the clean the windows and cut the grass and do the cooking once maybe when they've mastered that they can come in here.
yeah.
Uh,
And this is, but I guess the jury is still out. It's a novelty now, and I already feel that to some extent you can look at and browse through these thousands of images produced by AI, and uh, there is something that you can recognize
Mm.
often, and sometimes there is a sort of like a blandness to it. Um,
Have you experimented with this tool as well then?
I have extensively. I'm doing it,
Ah,
uh,
okay.
but I'm trying to use it in a slightly different way than just typing it in and then wait for the feedback. There's actually, I'm going to talk more about this with when Dave is online, but
Okay.
yeah, I'm using this quite a bit right now, just out of um, wanting to explore.
Mm, mm. So have you done an album cover for the ship or anything like that? Or-
The ship song. You mean
Yeah.
the last the Nick Cave cover? Yeah, I used that. That was an AI experiment.
Mm.
So it's a composite of a few images I did. I pointed to Gustave Doré, the old engraver, who produced imagery for Dante's Inferno and various Edgar Allan Poe stuff. So AI just previously to that, when I did that, I tried, the line work has been very challenging for AI, but there was an upgrade somehow with Midjourney, and then it was able to produce these finely engraved
Oh my god.
images, which I thought was absolutely fascinating. There was I did a few images of lighthouses and storming sea, and it looks absolutely convincing. It's insane.
I'm looking
Uh,
at some of the image. I've typed in Midjourney now, and
mm,
yeah, they're very good. No,
yeah, it's becoming very convincing for sure. Um,
it's like
but
Dali meets Neil Gaiman. Yeah, like
yeah, and this is something that came up in that discussion with Dave on walking the line. That a lot of the Midjourney stuff actually looks like Dave McKean illustrations or
uh,
painting. It's like he somehow tapped into, as they said, the collective psyche or something. Uh, so essentially, a lot of it looks like his work, which is quite interesting. I think.
I see the AI won an art prize already. Beating.
Yes, yes, that was highly controversial, of course.
Mm.
Um, but the artist then claims that he spent weeks on prompting and getting the right kind of prompt. Essentially a long text instructions saying what should be produced. So you try and you try and eventually ended up with something that he liked
Uh-huh.
and entered the competition, but he did so. Um, I'm not sure he actually acknowledged that he had done it with an AI
Ah.
when he entered. I'm not sure.
But do you think the AI has the capability to go where illustrators can't?
In a way, yes, because some of these things would take, months to produce. If you did it um, manually, so to speak. But I mean, it's not as if the AI can imagine things that humans cannot.
Mm.
This is all, whatever the AI puts out is something that it sort of harvested um, from the collective uh, efforts of humankind
Okay.
artistically
Hmm.
somehow. Um, whether those be photographs or paintings or drawings, whatever, is something that was mined from whatever output it sucked in, so to speak. So I think they have trained the data sets, or I think like 500 million images or something like that, or maybe I'm exaggerating now, but in the millions anyway. So you just let the AI look at these images and somehow learns to connect them with various words, and then breaking it all down to some sort of understanding, ending up in a file a few gigabytes, which can turn words into images. It's quite. I mean, from a
Hmm.
scientific point of view, this is quite an achievement. I feel. I have no idea how this is done. It's
Okay.
it's mind blowing.
That's part of the mystery, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe it would be better if at least if you put in some illustration. I mean, that you're putting text in is bothering as well, no?
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, I'm trying now to sort of do a bit of more of a back and forth process where I start with something that I produced myself,
Okay.
like a sketch, and then feed it into the AI and then break it down like piece by piece. Say a person. I'm just masking out the head, that
Mm.
person, and then describe roughly what it is, or how it can be further elaborated, and then wait for the feedback, uh, and then either accept or continue to iterate variations. Um, and it's super fascinating. I mean, as if I imagine myself as a student, like learning how it can be done otherwise, just taking it in. How would the shading of that face look? How are the tones looking? See where it will do something very differently from what I did.
Mhm.
This is fascinating. I feel actually I might become a better painter or illustrator myself just by looking at how it can be done, various variations.
Wow. But I'm also looking at some of the images of architecture, and it's very Gaudi-esque.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I
just
mean, but I'm assuming that in that case they probably prompted him. They fed his
ah,
name in. I guess
it's all extrapolation.
yeah. I mean, if you take some other famous architects as a reference, I'm
Ah,
sure it would be uh, putting out something entirely different.
oh, okay, so it extrapolates, so it depends on what you put in.
Yes.
So, yeah, I can see you're very familiar with it. I'm just yeah, I hadn't heard of it before you mentioned it.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, it's really new to me as well.
Yeah, I'm sure you will come into contact with it. I mean, especially give it a try if you want to. Yeah, instead of using like stock imagery.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, I'll have to do it for this episode. Yeah, at least it fits then.
Yeah.
Because for the other for the other episode with Ada, I asked if the artist will do it, but she only has one hand, she's doing pictures in real time, making pictures. So there's probably a queue. But whereas this it's unlimited now, isn't it? You can just
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
many different users at
Yes.
next
Uh,
level.
yes. There is. I mean, there are quite a few different options out there now.
Mm.
Some of which are free, and some of which you can pay a small sum and
Okay.
generate a number of images. But yeah, there is controversy for sure, and more specifically, I mean, if you type in make a Dave McKean illustration with like a dog running on a beach, but with a giant dinosaur running after him.
Okay.
And that it would probably look as if Dave had done it. And
Mhm.
if that person then sells it for some reason, for some purpose, there could be a question of sort of there could be a discussion at least about
Mm.
copyright. You can't really copyright a style. You can copyright work that you did yourself, but on the other hand, it could be argued that Dave and other artists have spent a lifetime refining their style.
Oh, so copyright issue.
Yeah. So what happens
Ah.
if someone else just steps in and produces an image that looks exactly as it was done by Dave McKean?
Yeah.
Um, I
What
mean,
about does it also do photography? I see some of them look quite a bit like photos.
yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Wow. So it could also replace like Getty images and
Yes, for sure.
wow. Hmm.
There is, I mean, there are issues in the way that all of this looks still. Um, it's not very high resolution. Um,
Oh no.
there are or usually artifacts. If you actually scrutinize the images up close, you can see the inconsistencies and where the AI have gotten things wrong. I mean, hands typically very difficult for an AI to make an image of a hand from various angles and getting it anatomically correct. Um, I guess it's just a matter of time before they improve
Mm-hmm.
on that. But currently, that's the state. But yeah, you could potentially replace images from image banks. I mean, a lot of industries and people are uh, threatened
But
by this.
so when you input something and something amazing comes out, how do you feel it? Do you feel that you've had a contribution to that? Do you feel kind of proud that because it is the one version of
Yeah,
that
yeah,
image?
yeah. It's a good question. Um, Depending on how much work I put into the image, I can feel a sense of accomplishment.
Mm.
So I guess this is what we can discuss. Um,
Oh, with the man
Oh,
himself.
hello.
Hello,
Hey,
Hello,
Dave.
can you hear me?
we can hear
Loud and
you.
clear.
Great. I've got a new microphone. I'm still not completely sure that it always works for me, but great. I'm glad it's working.
Pleased to meet you.
Very pleased to meet you. Thank
I'm a long-time fan of your work.
you. Thank you. That's very kind.
Very long time, in fact. I'm thinking that probably the end of the 80s or something, or beginning of the 90s. I was
Yeah.
in London with a friend. And maybe you can correct me on this, but we went into a sort of comic bookstore close to a British Museum.
Yeah.
And I have this recollection that I saw actual panels from Black Orchid hanging there, like being sold as originals. Is that even possible?
Yeah, it's possible. There was a comic shop there. It was called Gosh. It's moved now. It's still great.
Yes. Yes.
And it's entirely possible. I had pages up for sale.
Wow.
I don't remember it, but it's entirely possible.
Yes, I saw them, and I was just astonished. I mean, I was saying to Jack, I mean, I was interested in graphic novels, and you were always on the top of my list of illustrators for just. I was very picky about what I could actually read because of the way the images were looking. I wasn't able to read Sandman, for instance. I loved the covers, but it was always a disappointment for me to actually open them, visually speaking. But your work with Arkham Asylum and Black Orchid, that was just best of the best from.
Thank you very much. It's very kind.
Well, maybe I could just preface this conversation. So,
Yes.
because we've just been chatting for half an hour about Midjourney and Thomas's career and your career
Yes.
and your work. So, but now you feed in a conversation into us, and then we create a song. So this is a human generated. It's a bit old fashioned. I'm sorry.
Okay. No, that's
Yeah.
old fashioned is good.
Yeah. So I don't know what the song's going to be about. I think probably Midjourney or something like that. But
Yeah.
who knows? Could go in a completely different direction.
Okay. Sounds good.
Brilliant. Yeah. So I was looking at. I've been thinking about this AI thing. I'm a part-time illustrator. I'm a part-time musician. And as an illustrator, I've obviously come in contact with the new AI tools,
Yes.
and you have as well, I know. And I saw the interview you did. What's it called, the line, something walking the line. It was a long
Yes, I think
interview with two guys, and
yes.
you were very eloquent, but also quite worried about the whole development.
Yes. I mean, I would like, I think like most of us started to see these images popping up on my Facebook feed, wondering what they were. And it took about 10 minutes to research it, gather what on earth was going on. And then I was just kind of on the floor in a depression for a day. thinking that's it. That's my, I had a good run, but now the bots are taking over. And then I just thought, well, either I can just quit and tend the garden, or react in some way. So I ended up making a book called Prompt, Conversations with Artificial Intelligence. Just running through all the stuff that was running through my head. When you alight on something like that, I couldn't leave it alone. I couldn't sleep. I was getting up at 5 a.m, just my head full of this stuff and the implications of it, and just trying to get my head around it. And part of that was excitement, because it's astounding. I mean, the algorithms really are astonishing, but also a degree of terror about where we're going, and then just lots of questions. Why are they doing this? Do we really want to go there? What are the questions being asked by the people who are creating these things? What are the implications for the very nature of art and creativity? Is this just a complete redefinition of that? If it is, okay, well, that's the 21st century for you. But I wondered if we really want to do that. Do we want to do that? So all of these questions sort of bubbling away. So I made this book as a way of talking to it and myself about all of these questions, and just putting it out there, hopefully to generate more conversation. Because I think we shouldn't just be passive about this and sit back and, well, it's new technology, therefore it is by definition good and we must accept. I think it's important to talk back and push back a bit on those assumptions.
I tried finding a prompt last night, because I know that you put it out.
Yes.
Is there an online version available?
There isn't. Of course, I can send you an online version. I can send you a PDF of it. Initially I just did a limited edition run just to have it out, just to make a physical thing and make sure that it's out. And we pretty much sold out of those. But of course I can send you a PDF.
I'd be very interested. The sort of that was also my initial thought when all this crops up. I mean, sort of like a watering down effect, that everything, there's a huge outpour of imagery all of a sudden, and what is the point? What is the value of images? I feel exactly the same, and trying to orient myself in all this is tricky, and it's controversial. I can see that people are upset. I'm in part, I feel that this is slightly worrying, but in part, I'm as you. I feel totally fascinated also by the possibilities of these tools, and just to see, is this something I can sort of incorporate in my work, in my expressions? Just because I'm not particularly interested in just feeding words in and accept whatever comes back. I'm trying to find if there's a way to rather challenge the AI engine with my images, and sort of do a back and forth process of feeding something into the AI and then iterating a part of that image, getting it back, make further adjustments, sending it back to the AI, and so forth. And this is a super fascinating process. And I was saying to Jack, I also feel actually that I'm learning a few things about it, how could it be painted differently, or how would one of the old masters have made that face, as opposed to what I just did, and then so there is a bit of a crossbreed situation currently for my part. Try to see how I can use it creatively. But it is, I mean, the thing with all these images that people produce now is that it's based on words, but you get something back, which is essentially like always the same angle. Sort of, it's like eye height, looking straight into the image. Usually, it's not something that is on ground looking up, for instance, that if you want to challenge the AI with a different perspective, like unusual perspectives, that's kind of tricky. I haven't been able to do it just with words.
Yeah, I mean, I think those sort of technical limitations will disappear. Yeah, as people write new algorithms,
Yeah.
versions of these things will come up. I think it's fairly obvious that almost anything will be possible.
Yeah.
I think that the question I wrestle with is creativity a human endeavor? Is art a human endeavor?
Yes.
Or is it not? Are we now going to include, it's like playing chess. Is chess something that people do? Or is it something that machines do?
Yeah.
The chess playing algorithms now are able to beat the human. So do you disallow them and say, no, this chess is for people and we're just going to keep it that way? And understand that computers are very clever and can play themselves 40 million times in 10 minutes, teach themselves how to play chess. But that's not what chess is. Chess is a human activity. Are we going to do a similar thing with art? And understand that we've always used machines. I mean, we've always used photography, various, and computers and various things as tools. Using it as a tool it seems to be far less of a problem. I've already used it as for work where I feel it's been used as a tool and I'm driving it. But the end result is still definitely me putting the elements together and making it work. But it has contributed to that. And I in the same way that a photocopy machine or typewriter or camera or any of these contribute. But when you just type in some words and an image comes out and that's it, finished, are we going to consider that to be art or creativity?
Yeah.
That's just a question. And it's not for me to answer. That's the conversation that will play out in the years to come. Personally, I don't think so. Because for me, it's not the end result that matters. It's the journey. It's the process. It's the doing of the work that's important to me. Not the end result. The end result is a necessity in a commercial world. And I guess it's a marker on the arc of my work, the work that I've done. But actually it's been the process along the way that is interesting to me. And you get none of that with AI.
No. So we spoke about this guy who entered the competition, which he won. And I'm not sure whether he stated that it was AI assisted or not, but he claims that, I mean, he justified it by saying something to the effect that he spent a few weeks on sort of refining the prompts in order to get the desired result. And well, I mean, to a certain degree, I can see that. I mean, he visualized possibly something in his head that he wanted to see, and then he used a machine to make his bidding in a way.
Did you like the picture?
I can't recall how it looked. It looked very Midjourney like, like a standard Midjourney image. More or less.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing I'm thinking about in this whole thing, because this is a novelty now. It's we are now bombarded with this imagery, and who knows? I mean, collectively, psychologically, how we will respond to these images in 5 years or something, when these things have been around for a long time. How has this situation developed? What are we? I mean, I'm sensing already that you can look at Midjourney images and you feel that, yeah. I mean, the initial reaction was, wow.
Yeah.
It is, but there is a blandness already that there is something recognizable in it somehow.
Yeah, very much.
This will work itself out. I don't know.
And maybe it'll be it will be ubiquitous, I think, but maybe it'll be a bit like CG in movies. There are that it so overwhelms a lot of mainstream movies now that I've just lost interest. I mean, they look like games to me.
Yeah, exactly.
And the human threat and human emotion in it is completely dissolved in all of this CG stuff.
And like all stock photography looks the same as well, has this,
I guess,
looks pretty standard.
I guess. And so there's a much more of a divide. People really have gone back to the qualities of human drama and making films that look human made. They don't have this pristine digital perfection.
No. Right.
So maybe it'll go along those lines. I was quite heartened by I've got somebody set up a Facebook page of my work, sort of a fan page, and I keep an eye on it because I've kind of lost interest in Twitter and all the rest. But I keep an eye on this because it's nice. If people ask questions or want my attention for something, it's something I can keep an eye on. I'll answer questions. And it was about 5-6 weeks ago, they started to be inundated with Midjourney images, prompted by my work, I think, assuming that I'd be happy about that. I was ambivalent at best, I think. But the moderator then posted a note saying, look, this is happening. I'm interested to know what the community think. I think they were generally interested in what the reaction would be. And overwhelmingly, people were saying, the stuff is all very good, but it should be somewhere else. It shouldn't be on this. And I was quite heartened that people had reacted that way. Not that they hated it, not that they dismissed it or whatever, but just very clearly in their own minds saw a distinction between my man-made stuff and this endless stream of wallpaper AI stuff.
So that was a much more civilized occurrence. I was actually kicked out of a forum, a Facebook forum for nerd art. Sort of, I posted a few images that I'd done for sort of role-playing characters. I've been using, and I stated the message. I said that I've been using this and this in order, and then sort of refined the work further to create these images and these characters, and they look quite believable somehow. But it instigated a discussion about AI and all that, which was interesting because the community of concept artists working with films, for instance, they use a lot of photo bashing.
Yeah.
So essentially, this is a sort of photo bashing thing you can do also. Like you type it in an AI engine and you get, say, a face, put it on. You get a piece of armor, you put it on. So it was quite an interesting discussion. But then all of a sudden, I see that I get a Facebook notice saying that your images have been removed by the admin.
Right.
I go online and I see that he has updated community rules so that no AI imagery allowed.
What is the community? Sorry,
it's called the Nerd Kunst. It's a Swedish one, a very small one. Just for sort of role-playing fantasy, sci-fi, art that people make themselves.
Okay, because that industry is just going to go. I mean, that's that's going to be the first up against the AI wall.
They stand a chance of being challenged.
Yeah, complete.
But the reason I got kicked out was more a question of decorum. I questioned that. Well, I posted according to the rules, and we had an interesting discussion going. But you retroactively, after changing the rules, you retroactively threw out my posts, which I thought was kind of questionable.
Right.
And I was slightly ironic in my tone in general, and he didn't like that, so I was kicked. But
irony doesn't often always translate on Facebook.
No, exactly. But yeah, it's controversial, and I can certainly see that there should be a sort of like a distinction. Is this entirely human made, or is it in part AI assisted, or is it totally AI created?
It's a
And
can of worms. I mean, it's going to be very hard to navigate that.
Yeah, they'll need different award ceremonies.
I mean, God, I mean, there's already enough awards. Let's just axe them all.
yeah.
Yeah,
Also,
yeah.
the thing is that it was quite unexpected for me that illustrators and artists, visual artists, would be the first to be challenged by this AI
Yeah.
development. I would have thought that this might have happened with maybe some kind of like easy writer's process, like words, for instance, like small articles, whatever, could be written by AIs. I could see how that could happen, but
Well, they are.
also, they are already, yes, but that images that are so, I mean, I can't even see scientifically how it's possible to create an engine that actually understands what people want to see and then give it to them. So that's quite an achievement. But I feel also that we are sort of at the first forefront of being challenged by AI.
Yeah.
It is going to come to music and the films, and so on a broader scale, that boils down to questions about creativity and what will we appreciate, like 10 years from now?
What will we do?
What do we do? I mean, are we all consumers of AI products, or are we still producers to some extent? I don't know.
Well, it's supposed to be some sort of democratization of the creative process. And I always worry when people talk about that. It always seems to destroy it rather than, I don't know. It's, I think it will affect everybody in every walk of life. I'm interested in the why questions, really. Why are we doing this? You know, I read a book called The Artist in the Machine, which is a very good overview of the last 10, 15 years of AI development, mostly in labs, in universities. And at the end of every chapter, I just thought, why are you doing this? AI poetry, AI joke, AI music, you know, all the things that we humans love doing. Why isn't the AI doing all the crap that we hate doing? Why isn't all the energy going there rather than making redundant all of these wonderful things that we love to do and express our humanity with? It seems like a very strange pursuit. And I was left with a rather bitter feeling that there seems to be a lot of people who are really not very good poets and joke makers, musicians and draftsmen, wanting some sort of scientific revenge on the rest of us by just releasing this virus on us that, you know, will completely level the field. It seems, I don't like thinking the worst of people, but I was left with a very bitter feeling about the people involved in creating.
Yeah, it's like programmers are the greatest artists. That's what they're trying to say, is it?
Yes. Yeah. And by creating a world where anybody can make these things, it makes everything completely valueless.
Is there any scenario you think that, I mean, with all these tools available, is there a chance that we can somehow dream better, make bigger dreams somehow? Because when I was taking an example before with Jack, that if someone is carrying a story, for instance, but for lack of funds, technical limitations and everything, this story will not get told. But in a hypothetical future scenario, this person might have access to some AI engine which allows him or her to actually tell that story.
Yeah, I mean it's a very odd. It's a version of creativity that I don't recognize. If I want to do something, I learn how to do it, and in the learning of how to do it, you grow. you grow, but you also find your own way of doing those
Yeah.
things. And you find your own solutions to those things. Also, in the doing of it, you realize that actually the thing that you had in mind is not right. And now that you can write a bit or draw a bit or take photographs, or you work with another creative person very, very closely and create the piece together, then it becomes much bigger than the thing that you originally thought of, anything that you could have done individually. Now that you're working with another person, it grows. This is the process of creativity, grows it, and it becomes far, far better. That's the nature of creativity for me. Learning and growing.
But do you still teach in at art school? Have you noticed the new generation are, skipping the drawing stage and going straight to the computer? And
I've noticed that for the last 10 years, everybody goes immediately to Google and computer, and I continue to say that's it's alien to me, and obviously I'm going to come to it with my own biases and prejudices, and so if you've grown up using computers from infancy, then obviously that's the way you can go. But my experience is the tactile nature of making marks on paper. I could think better that way, and things come out of that you just never find on by going straight to a computer. Also, I still work with books and people rather than Google and internet search.
Well, you have skills,
But I've had to I've learned them. I started with a degree of facility to be able to draw, but I didn't grow up learning how to work with actors or, orchestrate music. I've had to learn, and I'm not a great orchestrator of music, but I know enough about it to be able to find my way through, what I want to do. And if I'm stuck, I can work with somebody who'll help me. That's all part of the process of creativity. Just bypass all that by just saying, I'll just type some words in and I get an immediate response. I don't see that as creative in its very nature.
That's also something you highlighted, the ability to learn and to keep learning.
Yeah. And in the learning, you grow and expand. It becomes, there are lessons to be learned from the effect of technology on the music industry.
Yeah.
The democratization,
Homogenization.
Exactly. It's homogenization. And of course they're fantastic tools. It's great that people in their bedrooms now piece together music that has this luster of professionalism and everything else. And there is a degree of expression and creativity going on there. Of course there is. But there is something to be said for learning the craft of music and what you get out of that. There's something to be said by the ability to be a professional musician. That is actually being paid to do it, being able to live being a musician, putting bread on the table and creating music full time. And I think to be excellent, you have to be doing it all the time. You can't just do it in your lunch break. To be excellent, you get a great, huge plateau of okay and quite good, but you don't get excellence that way.
Right.
Generally, I would say. I mean, these are, broad brushstroke arguments, but I just think generally that's the case.
I always preferred for myself with music. I always had the idea that I should stay away from formal musical training and formal academic knowledge of what's actually taking place. I don't know the names of, I can't play the chords. If someone says play this and that chord, I have no idea. I prefer to somehow remain in a sort of mystical state when I create music, and just by listening what's going on when I fiddle around with it, with the piano keys or whatever, and then elaborate on whatever I pick up on to maintain a sense of mystery. So yeah, I mean, there are various approaches you can have, but
I kind of did the same. I had piano lessons and then gave up the lessons and just started playing with people. But then I just reached a point where I deeply regretted not having that technical knowledge. I'd love to be able to sight read. I do know the chords. I do know my scale. Because I've just had to learn that to be able to, write music for other people.
Especially if you work with other musicians. This is my approach is very limiting. Let's say it's much more difficult to communicate things. And you will become a slower composer, evidently. But I mean,
I think also you just see the world open up.
Yeah.
I mean, I think as soon as I started working with actually really proper professional jazz musicians, for example, I just realized that I knew nothing. I really knew nothing.
Yeah.
And
especially in the jazz world,
and the depth. Well, in the orchestral world as well, but but in the jazz world, the tuning of their ears, how quick they are, and how able to communicate immediately, exactly on the turn of a phrase. It's astounding, the depth of their knowledge. And so to go home and feel I just know nothing at all, I've just got to do better than this. I've got to learn something. I can't exist just by tapping away. It's crazy.
You said you scored music, and was that for Mirror Mask or?
No, that was for a film called The Gospel of Us. It was a film with Michael Sheen. He did a 3-day passion play, and I directed the film version. And then when I was I also edited it. And when I was editing it, I put in lots of temp score. And of course, we couldn't afford to clear the temp score. So I had to write music for it in the spirit of Shostakovich and Arvo Pärt and all these world's greatest composers. So I, obviously didn't do as well as that, but I did write pieces that then had to be orchestrated. So I worked with a great friend of mine who's a producer and musician. Between us, we managed to do it.
Yeah. Wow. Is that the soundtrack is out on streaming?
It's not. I was going to release it on CD. In fact, it's almost certainly something I was going to do next year. I'll release it on CD, and then it'll be online.
Right. Interesting. Yeah, I love orchestral work myself, and this is very, of course, very limiting if I want to communicate, because I have all these tools, sampled orchestral libraries, and I've been working with them extensively through the years, sort of getting by. But as soon as I want to translate that into a real orchestra, I would need to, engage an orchestrator or something, make it proper.
Yeah. So do you play piano? Do you play guitar?
I mean, no
anything.
My only formal training is trumpet.
Oh wow, okay.
So this is how I started out playing youth orchestras, but on a hobby level, of course. I never pursued it professionally. And now, today, I'm a crappy trumpet player, and my range has just been slimmed down. Let's say.
Okay.
No, I guess I'm a singer mainly. A singer and composer. This is right.
Yeah. And I saw I looked up your website and saw some of the songs that you've made films for. That, especially the CG one with the statues growing.
Oh yes,
that's right.
Yes.
Which looks beautiful, and I really love the fact that you're doing the whole piece visually. And
well, the music was actually that one with the statues and the growth was for a friend of mine who's deceased, Rob Wilson. But I've done other CGI videos for myself. was Christmas songs. So it's so yeah, I'm interested in the sort of 3D world. Actually, with this whole discussion, I must admit to you, I'm a pretty lazy person somehow spiritually, because I'm always interested in ways to cheat, with technology. And for images and illustrations, I quickly turned to computer graphics when it came by the end of the 80s, actually. I started dabbling with computers and images, and when 3D and CGI came along, I jumped onto that wagon as well in order to somehow, I was fascinated that there was a way to calculate how light was falling on surfaces, shadows, and all that. That was so difficult to create. I was always interested in creating out of my own head. I somehow I thought it was cheating also to just to look at, like, have a photo reference. I always try to avoid that. I would rather have it coming from my own head, but with the aid of various tools like 3D and so on. And I'm now with this AI thing. I'm also in the process of trying to understand whether I can sort of make it come from my head, but I can cheat by using these tools to achieve that exact vision that I have in my head, which is slightly, I feel, different from just typing something in and then getting something back, which is entirely made by this AI engine. So yeah, but I'm the jury is still out. I'm still investigating these things. I mean, I don't know. Did you ever try? You tried obviously Midjourney and so on, and because is that what you used for prompt?
It is. Yeah.
Have you used any local installation of like Stable Diffusion on your own computer?
I haven't yet. No. I did prompt in 12 days, and it was from thinking of that I should do something right the way through to delivering the final PDF. The printer was 12 days.
Wow.
And I could have done it in quicker than that, because you know how fast these images churn out of Midjourney as soon as once you get on a roll. But so the book is in 3 parts. The first 2 parts are just exercises, so that I could test the program to see what it would do, see where its strengths were, see where its weaknesses were, and as a demonstration to the people who would read the book of what we're talking about. So the first one was just was feeding humanity's oldest story, which is Gilgamesh, the Epic of Gilgamesh, back into AI 2 lines at a time, and insisting that it does it in the form of stone relief, so it looks like the cuneiform tablets on which Gilgamesh was originally written. And I was just curious to see if, without reprinting the text, whether the narrative, something of the narrative, would survive anonymous voices 4,000 years in the past carving these beautiful cuneiform poems through our translation, human translation, and then back into anonymous AI diffuse world. Could you discern what that narrative was at all? That was my question. So that, and then in the meantime, all of these images come out. It's interesting. And then the second one was, I was interested in how AI sees our world. So I thought maybe a way of doing that would be to feed 1 headline a day from my newspaper into AI for a month. And what I got back was a deeply weird, disturbed, like an alien view of humanity. I recognized the images, as they had a touch of photojournalism about, but in a warped and distorted way. Very strange. Some of the things that it did were very odd. And so that was the second one. And out of that, I had many more questions, and a good sense of how it worked. And I could start to feel the algorithms a little bit, having created thousands of images at this point. And so I took all those questions out on a walk. I'd go for a walk, and I took a recorder with me and my camera, and I shot pictures along the way on my walk, and I talked to myself about these questions and tried to talk through my anxieties about it, where I thought we might be heading. And along the way, I asked a bunch of questions that I wanted Midjourney to render for me when I got home. So when I got home, I had all this list of questions. I got all those Midjourney renders. I had all my photographs that I'd taken en route, and I fed all of those images, the computer ones and my one, through a different AI program called Night Cafe. And that applied the textures from one of my paintings to everything. So everything started to look similar, like they belonged in the same world. And so it started to be difficult to discern what were the AI generated images and what were the real world images. And that was exactly how I was feeling at the time. So that's the book, really.
Very much looking forward to checking it out. Yeah. So Midjourney, a night cafe.
And I know there are others there. DALL-E is another one that a lot of people
Yes.
more photorealistic, I think.
It's photorealistic, and it's also trained on stock photography. So they tend to look in a special way.
Yeah.
Because I guess this is, as an illustrator with a very specific style, what is your sentiments about your style being hijacked by, each and every one who's interested in achieving a Dave Mckean image by himself?
Well, there's a few things there. I don't think I've never been that interested in having a style. So that's why I keep hopping around. I try and make images that are the best thing for that particular project. So if that project needs rich, deep paintings, then I'll do that. But if it just needs the simplest of pencil drawings, then I'll do that. If it needs photography, I'll do that. And I'm not so interested in style. So that's one aspect of it. But that it does feel very strange when people post their images and one of the prompts is my name. Obviously, I've been used to seeing people who like my stuff as much as, like, when I started. I liked a bunch of other illustrators and artists' work, and my work had those influences in it. And some of those influences were really sitting on the surface. They were not digested. They were pretty obvious. And over the years, they've become more and more digested, and I find new things and they come in. And that's part of the process of being inspired by other people. That's fine. We all do that. But to actually have my name in the prompt is a strange feeling. Now I can see that the work is not cut and pasted from my work, because that's not how AI works. It doesn't cut and paste. It deep learn and then can generate anything in that style. But as paper trails go, for a court case, I think having my name
some money from this
in the prompt is really obvious. And so, this is going to come up at some point. Somebody at some point is going to challenge this.
I think this is ongoing, obviously, and I know that some artists' notoriety have been very opposed to this whole idea. Like, there's this guy Greg Rutkowski, who's probably the most prompted, one of the most prompted artists around, and a Polish guy. He was very upset about the whole thing. But there's another quite famous concept artist whose name escapes me, but he has the opposite reaction. He says that's super cool that I'm used. So, but yeah, in the longer run, there may be legal precedents at some point. someone could actually prove that I've lost out on a lot of potential revenue here because this book publishing company used this prompt artist instead to create something that looks exactly like I did it.
Yeah.
This.
I mean,
But
it's
you
hard.
can't really, at this point, you can't really copyright a style. That's the problem.
You can't copyright a style, and you can't even, argue that this is inspired by your work or my work or somebody's work, because we all do that. I mean, there have been many cases of musicians being, ending up in court with somebody claiming that they've copied their song, and it's very hard to establish that, really. But that's why the prompt with your name in it is, I mean, that's obvious, isn't it? I mean,
it kind of reduces you to a filter setting now.
You are a filter set, yes.
If you look back at Matisse or Dali or something, they're just filter settings.
And it feels like your DNA is being ripped.
Yeah.
So it is a strange feeling, and I can't help feeling that the world of commercial illustration and sort of film production design and those sorts of things, I mean, why would they exist? Why would anybody pay me money to do anything when they can just type in what they want? And for a marketing department that more and more wants 100 rough to finish standard because they don't actually know what they want to see it. Well, then now they can have that. This is the marketing department's wet dream.
Do you think one of your clients might do that? Like spend a lot of time doing it and then say, could you redo this final one? We want this one done.
Maybe, but I don't even see why they would need to do that. I mean, they just create it themselves. Why wouldn't they just create it themselves? I don't see why anybody would pay me to do anything. Really. Every year I do an album cover for a band called Frontline Assembly, and they've been lovely to work with. And every year they have a new album and they send me a title, and every year they give me basically the same brief, dark, post-nuclear world, cyberpunk, this, that, that. And I mean, they can do that. They can type those words into Midjourney and just do it themselves. Why on earth would they get me to do it? I'm very happy that they are, for the moment, still asking me to do it, but give it a year or two. I don't see why they should.
Let's see how they react.
I just don't see why they would beyond simple friendship. Well, that's fine for that one particular relationship, but in a hard creative world, commercial world, where everybody's being pressed from all sides commercially, I don't see how these industries are going to, or these ways of life for certain people. I think there's other things that creative people can do. So I'm not quite giving up yet. I'm still convinced that storytelling is hard to do. AI, let alone what are those stories and why are we telling those stories? I think these are real human concerns. So as a storyteller, I feel a little safer. And drawing is hard to do in AI because drawing is a very particular thing. It's a lattice of decisions and observations, and each observation informs the next decision. And you see that in a good drawing, what I think of as a good drawing. You see that in the drawing. That's really hard to do for an AI to do that. It's not a filter style that can just be applied over something. It's a deep collection of very, very specific observations and decisions. So that's harder to do. So drawing, I think, is a little safer, sort of illustrative effect stuff.
And also, if you have a client, I'm a freelancer illustrator. If I have a client who poses very specific requirements, like we want an image, there's a sketch, it's still at this stage is very difficult to just feed instructions in and immediately get an image back. It would be
Mhm.
much more of a back and forth process in order to use the AI for that. And you would still have, you would need some kind of artistic competence in order to use the AI to come up with that exact image that someone is looking for.
Yes, I guess so. But again, that's going to be a technical problem dealt with in a year's time. I think already there's a way of doing a sketch, a doodle, and you scan that in, and it comes up with various styles.
There are. I mean, this is what I'm experimenting with, but you would have to attack the problem with just one small section at a time. It's not something that you can feed in a simple sketch and get an art, a
It's a
masterpiece
matter of
back.
time, no?
We'll see. I mean, we'll see. I don't know.
That seems to me an easier problem to crack than a drawing.
You know,
I mean, a good drawing, something
Yeah.
that looks like a drawing.
yeah.
That can do that now. But what I think of as a good drawing, where you really get a sense of the decisions being made on the page, like a great Egon Schiele drawing, or a really good drawing, David Hockney drawings. You see the decisions being made,
Yeah.
and you're aware of the humanity in every line, and why that line, and why not that one,
Yeah.
why that was corrected, and what, or that lattice of human endeavor. I don't see that in AI.
No. I mean, I spoke to a book publisher at some point, and there was a children's book coming out, and they hired a very prestigious and professional children's book illustrator, and just as an experiment, they also prompted an image and presented both of them to the author without saying anything.
I don't want to know.
No, the continuations. No, but sadly, the Midjourney image was the one the writer preferred.
Was the one?
What?
Did you say was the one that the writer?
Yeah, that was the one that the author chose. So that is a bit tragic, but yeah, I certainly see what you're saying in terms of simplicity. I mean, like calligraphy, drawings, that type of thing. This is something that an AI will continue to struggle with for quite some time.
I think yes, I think so. I mean, but there are people in bunkers in San Francisco chasing all these problems down, and I still don't know why. I'm interested to know what motivates these people, because I don't think it's making the world a better place. I think I think much bigger than the question of being a living for a bunch of people. I think creativity, the nature of creativity, is vital for our sanity, for our sense of human self. And I think we're really playing with fire if we're going to disrupt that to the degree that it becomes meaningless. It's interesting. I'm really interested in mental health at the moment. I've been reading books by Horatio Clare, who's very interested in mental health and the issues going on in that world at the moment, where because so many people have mental issues, there's a tendency to just prescribe pills, work out what the problem is, give it a name, and that name comes with some pills, and there you go, you're off my book, you're dealt with. And that's usually a terrible way of dealing with it. At best, you get a short uptick, but in the long run, it never really deals with the problem. Whereas if you start to prescribe other things like physical fitness, like getting fresh air, like going for a walk, like doing creative things, writing, poetry, drawing, anything, you don't have to be good at it. You just need to do it, because the process of doing it is incredibly healing. A lot of mental issues are about lack of control in the world. And when you're making something, you're in control of that. And just that process really makes us feel better. It does. It has obvious beneficial results in that area. And again, if that all becomes devalued by this process of this path that we're on, I think it's dangerous. I think it would be a terrible shame. I dread to think what the net results for our general well-being and senses of ourselves as humans, and the way that we pass on our culture and our personal experiences. Art for me has always been the ability to look through somebody else's eyes and experience the world through their eyes. And that empathic connection seems absolutely vital to me. If all of that gets devalued, if not lost in the shuffle of, tech wonder, I just don't think those questions are being looked at closely enough. That's my worry.
Yeah, it reminds me like the Manhattan Project. They're doing it because they can do it. They're doing to see how far they can go, but they destroy the thing they love. No, in the end, could be.
It is a common problem with science that our senses of ourselves as humans doesn't keep pace with our technical ability to solve these problems.
No, this is a major thing. The ethical considerations are not necessarily done by the actual scientists. They're more like tools to solve a challenge or a problem, a technical problem. And the philosophical implications, the wider implications will arise later. But at the same time, I guess I mean, how would we have done it in a more perfect world? Would there be sort of like an ethical council that will convene and
The village elders?
Somehow like to say, no, this research, we have to put a lid on this because it's not beneficial in the long run or something.
Well, there are already ethical councils being set, or
of course,
being set up to deal with very specific questions
with genetics and so on. But this is more tangible somehow. That there's a very direct fear that's introducing the wrong types of genes in natural environments wreak havoc or whatever. But this is more like a cultural or philosophical or humanist field we're in now. So slightly more difficult to see how the willingness would look to do something like this, to think beforehand.
I mean, the Pandora's box is open. We can't disinvent this. So that's it. It's out.
Yeah.
So I'm not in favor of censorship or banning pretty much anything. I'm very anti-censorship. But it's much more about the nature of the conversation that we have. Our sense of what art is and what we value in art has been, it's an ongoing conversation, isn't it? At one point it was, 500 years ago, our sense of what creativity was and what art was set there. It valued certain qualities, certain things. It spoke about certain things. And that changed in the 20th century to match the challenges of trying to express what on earth was going on in the 20th century. It will change again in the 21st century. But it's important that discussion is human-led. And I also think it's important to be led by, people most at the sharp end, as well as everybody else, as well as the scientists and the technicians and everybody else. That's all fine. But our voice, I think, should be heard as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Because there'll always be artistic geniuses. Now they'll become another Dali, they'll become another Picasso. So it'll be interesting to see how they use these tools, or if they just turn from it and do something else, or what will happen. It's speeding up. Everything's accelerating, and even in our lifespan, you've gone through. We were saying before, you've you've started with Photoshop and now you're seeing yourself taken out of the frame. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think this is quantifiably different than just being another tool, even a tool as powerful as photography or Photoshop. That's the argument I hear more than anything else. Oh, it's just like, the photographic revolution in the 1800s. I don't think it's that. I mean, I think photography had a huge impact and painting had to change, but painting can do things that photography can't do. This is a, quantifiably different category of change. It's not just another tool. It is a tool, but it's much more than just being. I do see it as a total redefinition of art.
And also the way it was introduced, because it was at some point there was a choice by the developers to as to which material they should include in the training sets, and they included many modern artists and concept artists, illustrators, and so on. They could have just left that out of the equation, but now that it's implemented and the thing is that as long as something is released as open source, there is no need to ask for permission. And this is a bit of a dilemma, I feel, because in the name of science research, you can take certain liberties and package a product which includes the work of you, of Rutkowski, various artists, and then you release it as open source. And then it just disseminates through the world, and there's no way of undoing what you just did. It's out there, so it's irrevocable. And this is, I can certainly see the argument that was not a very nice thing to do, even if it was legal. They could have. I mean, they could have like stopped, maybe 80 years ago, whatever, when you go further back, there is no copyright infringement, whatever. You can include the old masters possibly in the training sets, but not the present ones. So yeah, that's another aspect. Because I've been trying to take in various sides, different types of arguments, pro or con. And it's a bit of a jumble, and I'm still undecided. But one of the few things that I feel was absolutely wrong was the inclusion of modern working artists' work in these training sets.
Yeah, I'm completely unclear on how these algorithms work. They're massively powerful. I just don't know what the training sets are and what the data is.
It's just a matter of which imagery you include as a training material for.
Yeah, but like all tech viruses released into the world, they're done behind closed doors with no debate and no completely opaque, no transparency at all.
No.
There are no other industries that are so slapdash with any kind of ethical frameworks for what they do. There just is the tech evangelists feel that all technology is good because it's new technology. Yeah. And I mean, that surely we all know now that that's not the case. Social media or anti-social media has been released on us like a virus, again, with no forethought, uncoupling personal responsibility from free speech. Whoever thought that? Well, it's too late now. We're 10 years, however many, 15 years down the line, and we're seeing the results of it. We now understand the results of it. I think 10 years down the line of this, the way AI has been released on us, virus-like, the after effects of it, the implications of it will be understood maybe 10 years down the line. It's too late now. It's too late.
So here's a good question, like, because all these futuristic comic books, did any of them ever have a storyline that you know of based on kind of parodying themselves, that art AIs were doing all the art and they were...
I don't remember seeing this story. It's an episode of Black Mirror, really. It should,
Right,
you know,
yeah.
Charlie Brooker should have done it, but no, I don't think this.
Didn't see it coming. Even it's funny, the irony is deep, no?
It is,
Because all these futuristic comic books are now the first ones to be replaced.
Well, the implications of AI are profound once you start realizing how it works, how machines work.
Yeah.
And you know, I can see why lots of people are excited by it, and I can see why for certain things it's astounding. You know, the ability to run models for, you know, finding ways of treating cancer and viruses, things like that, the speed at which modeling can be done. That's amazing. That's going to completely revolutionize medical world. And, you know, that's a huge plus. That's where AI belongs.
Well, thank God we have podcasts. Soon maybe all we'll just be doing is in 10 years is just talking to each other on podcasts. And
I see, that's not a world I want to live in.
Look, it's my world. What are you saying?
Not just that. Not just
I live
that,
inside the
surely.
box.
But the podcasts, the podcasts are made to talk about actual things that are going on in the world. Art is made to express things that are actually going on in the world. AI images are now drawing on things, a data set of work that was created to express things actually in the world. If it becomes like an Ouroboros snake eating its own tail, if it all it's doing is reiterating itself and then versions of itself, with no new work coming in, no thought coming in.
Oh, yeah.
Podcasts about podcasting.
There are those already. But it's like the high street, you know, you just have coffee shops and people just want to go where there's someone to serve you coffee, and that's you have some human interaction, and that's all we end up basically having, you know, we just human interaction.
About what?
Yeah. About what they've seen last night. Yeah.
Which was a podcast about,
which was generated an AI movie.
Yes. Going to the coffee shop to talk about going to the coffee shop the previous day. About the thing that we talked about the previous day going to coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another episode of Black.
Yeah. We're turning into grumpy old men.
Yeah.
It's been a bit of a downer, this. I was hoping for an upbeat episode.
Well, yeah, I'm really conscious of that. You know, I really don't want to sound like a Luddite and just want it all to stop. But the thing is, the excitement of the bauble of, tech has its own energy. There are lots of people, you know, making things and doing lots of things, and the excitement of it is obvious, and it's like a huge sugar rush. That's how I've seen it. You know, that's how I've started thinking about it. It's like a big sugar rush. And so my only job, as far as I'm concerned, in these conversations is just to say, you know, that everything has a downside. The good side is obvious. You know, great, enjoy it, have fun. But don't be fooled that it does not come with a downside. It's just good to be aware of the downside, to mitigate against it. Let's hope the downside isn't going to be terrible. But by talking about it, by being aware of it, raising these, hopefully we'll mitigate against the worst of it. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but it's we need critical voices in all of this excitement, and various aspects of this need to be questioned. Yeah. But again, this is just the beginning. That's
I know.
So it's a good point to initiate a discussion about these things. And I'm thinking also,
I mean, these discussions should have been before release. It should have been.
Yeah. The thing is, we couldn't have known how that this would even work somehow. And I guess the very act of releasing the software and the machine has sort of fed back into development of the machine. Because they release it for a couple of 100,000 users, withdraw and polish their algorithms, and then they release it again. So it gets gradually better and better, and you just couldn't see how good it would become. So yeah, it's.
But I think that polishing was just about the how questions. How can we make this better? How can it do more? How can it do this? How can it do that? Not the why question.
No, not the why. Not the why. No.
I'm only really interested in the why.
I mean, there are many potential whys. I mean, for instance, like for professionals, this is what Adobe, the company, is doing with the Photoshop product. They have started to implement some AI tools in order to improve, various tedious tasks, like extending an image to the left, but there's nothing there. But let's use the AI to polish that.
Mm-hmm.
So there are various ways a graphical artist, a retouch artist, whatever, can use AI to make life easier, to avoid certain tedious tasks. There are now ways to extrude objects with near perfect masks from any photo that the AI tool identifies. This is a person, this is a cat, that shape belongs together as opposed to that shape. And just click on various objects that the AI has identified. So AI can be a great tool to avoid tedious tasks. This is again, this is not a working tool that they have released with Midjourney and the likes. It's more like a playground of the imagination, if you will. But yeah, that it does impact people in the industry for sure. It will.
Yep. And we haven't talked at all about veracity of images. And we live in this world of fake news, false information, running riot.
Oh.
To a degree, we have to be able to believe what we see. We have to be able to believe in images to be able to agree on anything.
And we can't even. I mean, the images have been faked since the 1920s, I believe. But we could always somehow up till now we could rely on moving imagery. But this has also been replaced by something
completely
like deep fake, and
yes.
There's no way to bear witness with documentation now that can beyond any reasonable doubt be proved to be this is what happened.
No, I mean
this I find rather troublesome because I met someone a few weeks ago who said that I don't believe anything they say about President Trump. He's my hero, and unless I see him doing something wrong with my own eyes, I will not believe what is being said about him. And especially in Sweden, this is something. This is a very rare view. But I come to think about this because if your own eyes, your own presence at the site is the only thing that can prove if something is true or not. It's a pretty complicated world that we live in.
It is, and I mean even that's strange because I think we all know how our eyes can deceive us and how our interpretation of things, in a flash of something happening in front of you can be. You end up just remembering the memory rather than any sense of what actually happened. Actually, it's consensus that we should believe it. If I think I saw a ghost in a room and there's 10 other people around me and none of them saw anything, and it could have just been a moth or a shadow falling across. Well, as much as I was convinced that I saw something, I'd have to admit that the consensus is that I didn't, and I'm mistaken.
Mm. This is going into a big area of conversation.
It is.
Consensus, because top down, we're living in a top down ruled society now, hierarchical, and well, I guess we always have, but
So yeah, so I think this is only going to get worse. This manipulation of visual images to sell whatever agenda or belief system you want to put. It's going to be harder and harder to bring humans together to do big projects together. My God, there are some big projects coming down the road we really need to work together on. I don't see it happening. Yeah. Another reason not to be too happy about the current state of things.
Well, we have to turn this into a song, so
it's going to be a really slow, sad number.
Thomas is perfect for this, Scott. Really, you picked the right guy for this sound. Yeah,
it's
and I think it should be something about the journey, because it's coincidence that it's called Midjourney, where they got that name from.
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, there is no journey in it. Why on earth is it called Midjourney?
You arrive immediately.
It should just be called, trifling end result or something. I don't know what. Not the journey. There's no journey.
Okay, but I think that's be something in there about the artistic. Let's go be inspired by it, and it's about the artist and not the AI.
Yes, the quality of going on the journey
and what it is to be human, and where the artist begins and ends, and it's not just the end product. And
I mean, that's another thing that comes out of these conversations. You do really start to focus in on what is valuable.
But that's modern art now, isn't it? You do sometimes do an exhibition about the process.
Yes. I mean, modern art's got a lot to answer for in these arguments, because it has more than any other area started to uncouple the end result from actually the creative act of doing
art eating itself from within.
Yeah, definitely. And lots of those arguments are interesting, and some great work is done in the conceptual world. I'm not saying that it isn't, but it has become, unfortunately, obsessed with money, fame, and all of those aspects. Celebrity. It has become a way of avoiding creativity, really. When you've got celebrity artists who just get other people to do their work for them.
Yeah. I mean, this is...
We're in a strange cul-de-sac at that point.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, everything you say about the process and sort of the meditation of work, that was already taken out of the equation by certain artists, and
by some, yes, some who believed Duchamp was serious 100 years ago.
Yeah,
and Duchamp wasn't serious.
That's always been the way, isn't it? Rembrandt had tons of assistants, and anyway,
he did.
Yeah, but he could paint a bit though.
He probably could. Yeah,
Rembrandt.
Okay,
good.
All right, thanks, Dave.
All right. Oh well, a pleasure. I don't know what on earth you'll get out of all of that, but
you just put it in there. Something will come out.
And it's lovely to talk to you about this again.
Pleasure to meet you,
and to get to know your work as well.
Okay, so looking forward to getting prompts, and pick your thoughts on your initial thoughts on the matter.
That's great. Send me an email address and I'll send you.
I'll do that. Yes. Thank you so much.
All right. Okay.
Okay.
Take care, Dave.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
How was that
listening
then,
about-
Thomas?
Yeah, it was. I'm not a native speaker, so it's a little bit difficult to translate everything into English, which
No
takes up a certain brain capacity. Of course, I will be exhausted tonight. But no, it was great to see it, to have an interaction with the great Dave McKean, and but also it's very dark conversation. So yeah,
It was a very dark episode. Well, like, because he's not a dark person,
No,
but he does make a lot of dark images. But then it was ironic that the darkness was made by the attack on the darkness on the artist.
Yeah.
There's so many intricate levels to this whole conversation. Yeah, it's
yeah.
it's
Yeah. So I'm not sure how do you usually go about things with the song process now. How
well,
does-
very much like Midjourney, just kind of.
I been the words. You
Yeah.
type the words. I deliver.
I got some notes here, and I just let them ferment a bit, and then let my higher conscious come up with something, and then I'll send it to you, send you some ideas. Then maybe that inspires you. You could take some pieces from that, and then we can send that back and forth. Then just make a song about it. I mean, I have a production team here in Italy, so we can really flesh it out for you. So you just do the click track.
Do you have musicians or technicians working?
Yes, yeah.
With you?
We have a great team. Yeah.
Good.
All human beings.
Human beings.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, usually my main gripe with music is lyrics. That's usually the slowest ingredient for me.
Okay.
I'm usually quick to come up with melodies,
Oh, great. Well,
and music.
we can
So
bounce it back.
If you have like, could we do it like that? If you have ideas about lyrics,
Oh, okay.
maybe you could toss them over as
Good idea.
what happens.
Brilliant. Let's do it like that. It's a really nice way to collaborate. Like feeding into the Thomas Feiner AI, and then
Exactly. The Thomas Feiner intelligence. Yeah. We could start by trying.
yeah, let's do that. Great.
You know,
That's nice.
you know, I've never. I don't think I've ever like put music into like more or less finished lyrics. That's a bit unusual for me. But that will be interesting to try.
It's experiment. Yeah. Artistic collaboration. Yeah. Wonderful.
But it's something there about. I mean, there are so many different possible themes that you could take.
Exactly. Directions to go in. Yeah. What angle? Yeah.
Because this what this whole thing is that you, on some level, this is a machine that instantly transforms your imagination into something you can look at. It sort of crystallizes visually your something that you want to see, and it shoots back at you with various degrees of success. But still, there's a way to do this now, which is unprecedented. Never happened before. There was always a certain amount of work in order to make a visual out of something that was in your head. And this is new. So
Well, maybe the song could have quite pictorial language, and then a very deep atmospheric sound. Obviously, fits with your music and your voice. It's beautiful, and your timbre. So we could come at it like it's a song generated by Midjourney about
yeah.
the pictures that it creates. Maybe it could be the voice of Midjourney, or
there are already like these AI lyrics engines. Apparently, I haven't tried them yet. I would actually be interested in trying just to see. It's like when was it David Bowie or who did this kind of cut up technique?
He was famous for that.
Jumble words and you just piece them, shift them around. Something emerges eventually. Yeah, I want to try that at some point, but right now I would rather you send me something.
Okay.
Is it easy for you to write lyrics?
Oh yes, yeah. Well, I've made all the notes and there's enough ideas here. I just need to come up with the angle, what it's about, and then it fits together. So yeah.
And if there is a rhythm somehow,
right? Yeah, I get a rhythm.
Because just playing prose is very difficult to obviously
to some poetic rhythm. Yeah.
So that could be interesting.
Okay, we'll leave it with me. Yeah.
Because I do have a full production facility here as well. So
okay. All right.
I wouldn't necessarily have to rely on your team, but there might be a bit of back and forth. I don't know. What kind of? I'm interested. What is that? What kinds of musicians do you have?
We have a bass player, guitarist, drummer, but then the drummer also plays piano and he plays into the MIDI. So we have a big MIDI library, so he can do any sounds. So we are also using a lot of computers, so we can make strings or ethnic instruments or any instrument we can play. He plays with the MIDI.
Yeah. Do you speak Italian?
See. Yeah.
But do you have some Italian connection from before? Or
no.
Because you could visually pass for an Italian guy.
I could, and my girlfriend's blonde, so she looks like a German or a Swede.
She's
a bit too short to be a Swede, but she gets confused to be German a lot. Yeah.
But the musicians are Italians.
Yes. Yeah.
No. Oh, cool. But let's take it from there. You fiddling around.
Okay, that's great.
Then we can see how I respond to them.
All right, brilliant. Yeah, I'm not as fast as Midjourney. It's going to take me.
No problem. I have a few things I need to do first. So anyways, but the timeline, how is it looking in general? You said like 6 months even?
Oh, well, it can be. I'm still waiting on songs for a year from some people. It's a very slow process. So yeah.
Okay. So the podcast itself will not be released until the song is actually finished?
Not at all, no. We wait. Yeah.
Good. Yeah. Well, this is just an experience.
Yes. Well, likewise, it's pretty great to see Dave through your eyes as well, and to talk about your concerns as artists. And I'm sure in a couple of years I'll be having the same conversation about music, and it really touches the bone when it's something you're working on.
Yeah, and as I said, I have this contact with Peter Chilvers, who is the assistant of Brian Eno.
Oh yeah.
So if we come to that point when we start, we need to have a discussion about music and AI. He could be a good.
Wow, that'd be hilarious. Yeah, it would be hilarious to do you in a year with Brian Eno. When you've gone down the rabbit hole on AI music.
Yeah, exactly. Because I couldn't keep my fingers out, probably.
Probably not, yeah. That's a great follow-up episode.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay.
All right.
Thank you so much for tonight. And I wish you good luck with the lyrics.
Thanks, Thomas.
Okay.
Chat later. Bye-bye.
Yes. Bye-bye.
Bye.
A journey out of mind, a journey through the possible, collated and entwined. Telescopic netherworlds, portals into space. Hyperplexic Ferris wheels, cut up and replaced. Welcome to the new invention, where everyone is an artist. Why would anyone disagree? It's dark inside the great convention. Exhibitors are reminded to be uniformly free. Pixelated prophecies prompted into being. Will we ever be able to believe in what we're seeing? Artistic instabilities, call it what you will. It comes without a warranty, and this is not a drill. Welcome to the new invention, where everyone is an artist. Why would anyone disagree? It's dark inside the great convention. Exhibitors are reminded to be uniformly free.
Thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the song and the episode. The song will be released next week. It will be available on all streaming platforms, but you can already pre-save. Please support the artists by following them on social media and adding the song to any playlists you have. This is a completely free show, and you've listened this far, so I'd really appreciate it if you could pay us back by clicking like and subscribe. And follow at Podsongs on social media platforms, or subscribe to the newsletter at podsongs.com for special updates. Or just tell the next person you see about this amazing show where musicians interview their idols and write a song about them. The songs are available for download from the Podsongs website as well, which pays a lot more than the 0.00 whatever we get from Spotify. You can also email me at jack@podsongs.com to give feedback, suggest an artist and guest combos you'd like to hear, or just say hello. We're a listener-supported show, and I'd love to hear from you. A final thanks to my researchers, Dori Verbo and Rosa Marino, my producer, Maurizio Sanicola of Goldmine Records, and musicians Massimino Vozza and Luigi Falcione. The next episode will be out soon. In the meantime, you can listen to more amazing episodes in the archives. Until then, have a great day.